So perhaps one of the most controversial books to pass through the New Age Bowel movement is the Necronomicon. The version I speak of course, released and edited by Simon, or that is to say Peter Levenda, in 1977. Most of the controversy specifically with this book is in regards to the title, since it was indeed made most public through the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. Firstly, the title does not even mean Book of Dead Names, and it is not any kind of Latin. It is instead based on a Greek translation. The book should be more accurately interpreted as the laws and rights of the dead, or that is to say one's ancestors, since magic is indeed a birthright by which one calls on the divine blood within. Secondly, the work in tradition is not Sumerian, which would have heralded most attributes to Enlil, or at the very least Enki, but it is instead Babylonian, deferring all powers of earthly magic and world order to specifically Marduk, and then secondly to Enki. Anu remains a distant figure, and Enlil is only mentioned out of respect. In time, the Babylonians assigned all Enlilship or lordship on earth to Marduk, and the ancient epic of creation, or Enuma Elish, was modified to allow the young slayer of serpents the position of great slayer in the primordial war in heaven. Now, the Necronomicon provides an initiatory system that is not the subject of my interest at this juncture. All approach the ladder of lights in their own way, and all are currently facing the sixth rung of the ladder, which is to say, that which confronts us before the final, the seventh. The incompletion of the grimoire comes from the fact that the work was not specifically intended as a priest guide at the time the tradition was active in Babylon. Instead, it was more of a hasty effort in preserving a tradition that was disappearing, at least from the perspective of the author's discretion, probably long after, if we were to assume 8th century. It is actually intriguing to find the Mardukite priesthood hidden in the underground a millennium after Marduk left Babylon. So not only was the author most likely drawing from memory or from already worn tablets, but the supposed Arabic version later made it to Greek, which is where we find the source of our existing version. Whether or not John Dee was involved in this process as well is questionable, though not out of the question, as the Enochian tradition is quite often referred to as a system of the Necronomicon. The idea that the work is devil worship is ludicrous. It existed in a pre-Christian era where such definitions did not even exist. While many have indeed made the Enki equals Satan connection in the past, it should be understood that the opposite side of Enlil is no more or less evil, but is really a matter of perspective. The fact remains that the Enlilite worldview reigns supreme, with Jehovah or Yahweh being the singular source for all in the universe, and his brother Satan is the devil seeking to reap the souls of men away from Yahweh. Such exists as only cultural perspectives, and as Babylon did indeed exist within Enlilite territory, even though just to the south Eridu was to forever and always be sacred to Enki, the Babylonians became demonized, as is common in issues of warfare politics. So, the idea that all of the gods would be unified under a Marduk banner, who sought to return people to the one God through magic and prayer, and not animal and other sacrifices of life or wretched enslavement, did not bode well for the other gods. Marduk sought to bring the navel of the earth from antediluvian Nippur to Babylon, but his stargate at Babili, or Gateway of the Gods, or the Tower of Babel, was destroyed in circa 3460 BC. Marduk then went to the Nile region and became Ra. He then began the Osirian dynasty, and there ensued a 350-year war between Marduk and his brother Thoth, Hermes, Ningishida for supremacy. And eventually Thoth bows out to start a civilization in South America as Quetzalcoatl. This civilization begins the count of which ends in 2012.